Now we're going to learn about this cool effect, which can spice up your videos. So let's get started. This effect requires videos where the object is clearly visible. You want to make sure that your video is sharp and that the lighting is good. If your video is too dark or if there's like blur involved, then the effect may not look as crisp. So I have two videos right here, both of them of cars, and I'm just going to grab them into my timeline. So let's begin with our first video. Duplicate your clip, and we're going to put on our first effect. And that is the Find Edges effect. Basically, this effect is going to target the edges of your subject or object. So you can see why it's important to have a nice and clear video. But we're going to get the edges alone and not the background. To do that, just go to the Effect Controls and invert the Find Edges effect. So now we just get the lines and not the background. Once we have this, we can click away. This on its own is a pretty cool effect, but we can take this a step further. And look for our next effect, which allows us to tint whatever we have on that video. Add the tint effect right on top, Effect Controls, then map white to anything else you want. So I will choose a cyan, and now the edges are that color. You can leave it one color throughout the entire clip, but I'm going to change it by creating a keyframe, pushing it forward, and then maybe around here, changing the color into something else. Let's try a magenta, and that's pretty good. So this is what we have so far. All right, now what we want to do is to make these lines glow. Right now it's looking a little flat. So grab your glow effect, We Are Glow, add this on top, Effect Controls. Down here we have some options. First of all, we're going to work with the glow itself. So reduce from the threshold, so we don't make the other random stuff glow, but just the lines. Let's stick with like 0.60 and isolate the bigger parts of the car. Next is radius. This is how much of that glow is showing out. So if you reduce it, you're going to get a better result. I'm going to stick with like 20. And finally, we have the brightness, which you want to increase. Let's try 4. You can even go higher. You will get a different result. I think I'll go with like 4.5. And that is looking good. The problem is that the glow is adding a white color to my clip. To fix that, just check this box and put on whatever color that you had before. You can even grab the eyedropper tool and select it here. So now, if I just make my in and out points, we can see a preview. So when we play this back, we have this really nice, it almost looks like an animation, and it's looking pretty cool. So you can increase the radius if the lines are too small for you, but I'm going to stick with the following numbers. All right, now let's move on to our next effect, which is going to take these lines and basically add some sort of wave to it, so they will not be as strict. Let me show you what I mean. Grab the turbulent displace effect, add it above. It's going to give you an error. Simply grab it above VR Glow, and the problem should be solved. Open up turbulent displace. You can see how it's making the lines wiggly. This is what I mean. Begin by reducing the size so it's not that wavy. I'm going to stick with 20. You can go higher if you want, and then finally work with the amount. So you can either make it really intense or something a little mellow. I'm going to go with like 85. And this is pretty good. Close turbulent displays. And now we want to take all of these glowy lines and leave out the darker bits. To do that, we're going to go to the Effects panel and look for the Extract effect. Add this right above. And now we're going to get these white lines. Go to Effect Controls, and we're going to set Black Input Level to 0. And remove Softness completely. Then increase your white input level until you get the lines that you want. If you don't want the extra bits, just add on to this so that you only get details from the car. Let's take a look. I think 50 is nice. Invert the effect, and then we're going to head up here to change the blending mode. That way we can get this effect on the original video. There we are. We now have these lines all over the car. Bring Extract above Tint, and now you're going to get those lines. If the wiggly lines are too much, you can always just go back and remove from the Turbulent Displays effect. So just reduce the amount. Let's try 40. So now we have this effect, which looks pretty awesome. You can now simply fade out the top video, use opacity keyframes, and anything else. So maybe around here, I don't want the glowing effect. So go to opacity, make a keyframe for 100%, and then move forward, turning it into 0. So very slowly, these lines are going to fade, and it's actually better to limit the space between the two keyframes. And there is our glowing line effect. Now let's try it with a video that does not have any small detail. So there's no ground, and we only have the wheel. Once again, duplicate this. I'm going to copy all of the effects we had here so that we don't start from scratch. Right click, copy, go to your other duplicate. Right click, paste attributes. Over here, we want to disable everything except for the effects. Make sure that all of the effects are selected, and then we can hit OK. So we're going to get all of this. Now all I have to do is to change the blending mode into screen. Now a transition that you can do is to grab your duplicate video, cut it into equal pieces with your razor tool. Mine will be 4 pieces. And then just change the blending mode into something else. So let's try Linear Dutch. Go back to none, or normal. So we get these glowing lines. Go to this one, once again, Linear Dutch, and then go back to normal. So we can get this cartoonish transition, which is pretty good for like music videos or car clips. So this is what it looks like. Now, if you're not a fan of these chunky glowy lines, there is some way that you can tweak the settings and get a thinner line. To do that, click on your duplicate, move the Extract effect above Find Edges, and immediately you can see that you get less chunkier lines and less of those finer details. Now go to your Extract effect, and we're going to make that sweeping animation. Turn the white input level to 0. Make a keyframe at the start. Go near the end and turn this all the way to like 200. And this way we're going to get that sweeping animation. Let's render this. Once we render it, this will look a lot better. And you can just copy and paste these keyframes as many times as you want. which is what I did here. Also notice when you have less tinier details, you will get a better result. So here we had like the cement, and the fine edges effect catches that. So the best thing to do is to grab a video where it's mostly the object or the subject. I'm gonna go in here and bring my tint keyframes a little bit closer. So I'm gonna make one for cyan in between the two white input keyframes. For the second one, I will make it magenta. So this was a really simple effect that you can do inside of Premiere Pro using some built-in effects. We did not need to use any plugins or any outsourced materials. So this will be a nice touch that you can add on top of your clips. See you guys in the next lesson.